Christmas break, if you guys are exempt, y'all won't have to come in here, but maybe like one day that week. If you don't have any absences, you could actually be absent. Yeah, you could still miss both the review days and the final days. You could miss 4 days that week if you don't have any absences. If you got one absence, you could miss 3 days.
It's excused too. I got a doctor.
It doesn't matter when it comes to being exempt.
That's wait.
No, that's not. It's a good rule.
Yes, bro. I cannot help that. I was literally dying. And they don't care that I was dying. They just want me to take a phone.
They do care about you.
Cause
But they don't want to.
that's how zero if we don't come.
I got 2 absent on my classes and
Yeah,
then
it
3
wasn't
in
matter.
Miss O'Neill
If you're
because
exempt
they want
anyway,
to
don't
party.
Then that will matter for you.
Just because I was partying and I said, hey, why don't I
No, once you turn the exemption in, I'm not going back to you. No, they don't want to. All right, here we go. Y'all ready? I need y'all to focus. I need y'all to be watching. All right, so number one is a very easy problem. So what we're trying to do is get this down to one word or one number. So Samara, when you look at it, always look and see if you got any x squares. And on this one we do. Because if you've got x squares, I can look at my x squared section, which is my Pythagorean identities, and I can change that out. All right, so Ashlyn, look at your formula sheet right here. Find the one that says secant squared minus tangent squared and tell me what it equals. All right, Ashlyn, it's in the row on the right. Equals 1, right? So negative 15 times 1 is negative 15. Guys, it doesn't get any easier than that.
And that's the answer.
That's the answer. Once you get it down to one word or one number in this case, you're done. Anybody have a question? So it's really easy when it has these x squares and you can just look on here and trade it out. All right, look at the next one. Do we have any x squares on this one? We do not. So, Samari, now I got to change everything into sines and cosines. So, start with the top. What do I change secant into? 1 over cosine. Does everybody see where Alex got that from? What do I change tangent into? There you go. Sine x over cosine x. Very good. Now, I haven't showed y'all this last step. Some of y'all might can look at it and figure it out. What if I had this? What if I had 3 over 4 divided by 6 over 8? I would do keep, change, flip, and then I would simplify. We're going to do the same thing with these words. Your last step, Ashlyn, on a lot of these problems is going to be keep, change, flip. Keep the top. Flip the bottom. So I do this. I need y'all to write that down. Now, if you guys can eventually skip that step, that's fine with me. I can still look at that and see that you know what you're doing. All right, Julia, does anything cross out on this one now? Let's see. Yeah, cosine crosses out. So here's what I've got left over. I got a 1 left over on top, and I got a sine x left over on bottom. Now, there's nothing left I can do. But Samari, we want to make these answers into one word. Just making sure you listen to me, okay?
I am. I was writing it down.
We want to make sure we can get these answers down to one word. Can I change that down to one word? Look at the top of your sheet and see what it changes into. 1 over sine changes into cosecant. CSCX, cosecant x. So most of the time on some of these problems, your last step is going to be keep, change, flip. All right, are we good?
Yes, sir.
All right, I like it. 3 is going to be an easy one. I'm going to stop and give y'all a chance to do it.
Cosine.
All right, remember, I can only cross them out, guys, if they're on the diagonal. So I cross those 2 out, I can cross sines out. That's it. What's left on top? Go straight across. Sine. The 1 you don't have to write. What's left on bottom? Just 1. So my answer is just sine. Not bad.
You got like I got
All right, for the 12 problems like this, Samari, that we'll have on the test Friday, I'm going to try to make 9 of the problems just this easy. Now, that means 3 of them is going to be pretty tough. All right, we're good on 3. All right, we skipped 4 this morning for just a few minutes. We'll come back to it. Don't mark it out. We'll come back to 4 because I thought 5 was really easy. So we'll go ahead and go to 5. All right, so let's look at 5. Look at the top on 5. Samar, you see where it's got secant squared x minus tangent squared x? Anytime you got the x squares, where do you look? Pythagorean. Good. What does secant squared minus tangent squared change into?
1.
Good. So we got 1 on top over cosecant. Now, Samara, can I change that into one word? Look at the top and check. Yep, very first one, top left. Sine x. So again, guys, I'm going to give y'all plenty of easy ones like this on your test where you won't fail. But to get 100, you got to know how to do the hard ones. Question on 5 before we do another one. All right. 6 is the first one that's a little bit tough. Okay? Did y'all do these last year, Ms. Carter? Okay. All right. 6 is the first one. Everybody look. Do y'all see back on number 5 where it said secant squared minus tangent squared and it equals 1? Well, now we got secant minus tangent without the squares. Does that one equal 1 too? Nope, it does not. So we can't mark that out and put a 1. So all we can do on this one is change everything into sine and cosine. All right, so is this one okay? Yes, a 1 is okay. That one's okay. Secant. What can I change secant into? Somebody check for me. So I'm going to change that one to 1 over cosine. And can I change this one? Yep, what does tangent change into? I think that one is sine over cosine. After y'all do this for a couple days, you'll know them and you won't have to look at your sheet. Or maybe I can write them up here on the board or something. All right, so parentheses means we got to multiply. How are we going to multiply this one, guys? Something we've done 100 times this year. We got to full it out. You're going to have to full out all that mess. Okay? But it's not going to be bad. All right, y'all ready? What do I get when I times these two? Anytime you multiply something by 1, it's just going to be 1 over cosine. Write down each step for me. All right, what do I get when I times these two? Look, I'm timesing by 1 again, so it's just going to be that. Minus sine x over cosine x. Don't worry about how bad it looks right now. It's going to all simplify out. Now, let's times these two. All right, this is where kids have trouble. All right, watch. Everybody watch. That's sine over 1, right? So, Samari, I can't cancel anything out on those two. So if you can't cancel anything out, multiply straight across. Sine times 1 gives me sine on top. 1 times cosine gives me cosine on bottom. Okay? And last, I got to times these two together and do the same thing. Sine times sine gives me sine squared over cosine. Now, if you can do that step, the rest of it's going to be pretty easy. That's the hardest step. All right, every worksheet we have for the next week, you're going to have at least one problem that's full method like this. And every problem, every time we have a full method problem, I think the middle is going to cancel out. If I'm wrong on that, I'll change it, but I don't think we're going to have one where the middle doesn't cancel. Samara, if I got a plus sign and cosine and a minus sign and cosine, they cancel out to 0. So every time you have one of these full method problems, I believe that middle is going to cancel. All right? Last step. We got to subtract these two. All right, let me show you something. What if we had this? What if we had 7 over 3 minus 5 over 3? Back in middle school, y'all had to subtract fractions, right? When you add fractions or subtract, they got to have the same denominator, right? 7 minus 5 would be 2 over 3. You just bring the 3 over. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here with these words. All right, Samari, do they have the same thing on the bottom? They absolutely do. So I need y'all to put cosine on the bottom just one time. Just like we just put 3 on the bottom just one time. 1 minus sine squared goes on top. All right, now somebody look at it. Look at the top. Talk to me. What can I change? What does 1 minus sine squared change into? That's an x squared. See if that's one of your formulas. Hunter says that's cosine squared. See if y'all can find that. 1 minus sine squared. All right, Hunter's right. That changes to cosine squared. So I got cosine squared on top. I got cosine on bottom. What's the last step? Remember, cosine squared is like having 2 cosine x, like this. Yeah, you mark 1 out on the bottom and just 1 out on the top, but you still got 1 left on top, and that will be your answer. All right, so that's the first problem we had to think about a little bit. Guys, we're going to do that every day for a week, and by Friday we'll have it. Yeah, you are. All right, can we go to the next one? Trying to go as fast as I can without leaving anybody behind. All right, so 7, I think 7, guys, is not on the test. No need for us to do it. Mark it out. We're not doing that. Mark out 7. All right, 8's a very easy problem. All right, we got x squares in our problem, right? So Samari, check your sheet. What can I change 1 plus tan squared into? Y'all don't help her, let her find it.
Secant.
All right, so I'm going to erase this, and she said that changes to secant squared. I need to show you that. Ashlyn, we're good? We just copied that off our sheet. All right, next step. Change everything into sines and cosines so we can cross stuff out. Do I have to change that, or is it okay? It's okay. It's already a cosine. All right, that is secant squared. Remember, if secant is 1 over cosine, then what is secant squared going to be? You just add the squares. It'll be 1 over cosine squared. James, what cancels out? What's my answer? I really like that problem. That's a good one to put on the test. 2-step problem. Really like that one. Short. All right, y'all try to stay awake for me. Let's do another one. We skipped 7. All right, now let's come back to 4. Is 4 the only one on the front we haven't done? Mm-hmm. All right. 4 is going to be a challenge. A couple different ways we can do this, but I'm trying to think of the easiest way. All right. Do we have any x squares in here that we can automatically change? No. So now, Samari, I'm going to change everything into sines and cosines. The top is already set. We'll just put cosine x. All right, Ashlyn, what can I change cosecant x into? Look at the top of your page, please. Very good. And then sine is already set. I'm just going to write it sine over 1. All right, that's the first step. All right, next step. What if we had this, guys? What if we had 4 over 3 plus 1 over 4? Do you guys remember how to add fractions by hand without putting them in the calculator? You would have had to do a common denominator. 3 goes into 12, 4, that would be 16. 4 goes into 12, 3, that would be 3. Add them up, it's 19 over 12. Do y'all remember doing that in middle school? All right, we're going to do the same thing now, but with words. All right, I'm going to leave cosine on top. Not going to mess with that. All right, we got to find the common denominator. Your common denominator, we did this 6 weeks ago, so it's good. I told y'all 6 weeks ago, the common denominator is 1 of everything on the bottom, right? So it's just going to be sine x. And what we did 6 weeks ago, I had y'all write a sine x here, and And I had y'all write a sine x here. So I thought it made it easier. I still think that's how we're going to do it. All right, any questions? What cancels out right here? So just bring your 1 over for that spot. Okay, how come these signs won't cancel out? You can only cancel one out, Ashley, if it's on the bottom, remember. If it's on the top, you got to times them, so you got sine squared. Now, guys, that's the hardest part on that problem is doing a common denominator. Once you get that done, the rest of it's easy. All right, I said this a minute ago. A lot of the problems, the last step is keep, change, flip. Keep the top. That's cosine x over 1. Flip the bottom. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to put sine x on top. All right, wait a minute. Katie, it says 1 minus sine squared. I think that's one of those x squared formulas. Check for me, Katie. The Pythagorean section. See if I can change 1 minus sine squared into anything. Good. So that's cosine squared. I flip it, it goes here. All right, this is an example of one of the harder problems on the test. You're going to have to know how to do it back on. All right, Lydia, what's next? Cross out cosine here with 1 cosine there. Now look, this had 2 cosines. We're just going to mark one of them out and leave one. Okay, so what's left? I got sine left on top. I got cosine left on bottom. Can I change that into one word? I think so. Sine over cosine is tangent. So my answer is tangent. Question. All right, flip it over. We got a couple on the back. All right, 11's much easier than number 10, so we're going to do 11 next. 11's one of the easy ones that nobody's going to miss on the test. 10's pretty tough. So again, out of 12 problems on the test, you're going to have three hard ones. All right, this one's an easy one. Ashland, got an x squared up top. Look on the formula section. What's secant squared x minus 1 change into? It's got to be up there somewhere. It's on the Pythagorean section. Tan squared. All right, so the top changes to tan squared. All right, now, remember, guys, your second step, maybe I need to put these steps on the wall somewhere. We want to change everything now, Samara, into sines and cosines. Well, if tangent on your sheet equals sine over cosine, it says that on your sheet at the top. What does tan squared turn into? Just add the squares. Sine squared over cosine squared. All right, same thing on the bottom. Olivia, look up the top of your sheet. What does secant x turn into? So this would be 1 over cosine squared. All right, I'm going to stop because I think y'all can finish it. I want y'all to now do keep, change, flip and see what cross. All right, so I keep the top. I got sine squared over cosine squared. Flip the bottom. What cancels out? What's your answer? Sine squared. All right, that one's not supposed to be bad. All right, a few more to go, guys. Don't take a bathroom break. All right, last one at the top is number 10. All right, somebody had this question this morning. Can we cross out that sign and that sign? Let's think about it. When is the only time you can cross stuff out? When it's times. So if it was like this, absolutely, I could cross those out. But since it's got a minus, if it's got a plus or a minus, you can't. All right, so if you got a plus or minus in between, you got to do the common denominator step. And we talked about 6 weeks ago that we're doing again. Your common denominator is 1 of everything on the bottom. So my common denominator is going to have to be sine and cosine. Just like that. Okay, and 6 weeks ago, remember I had you write it above each problem. There and there. All right, here's the tricky part. Everybody watching closely. Hunter, you got this one done?
Yes, sir.
Hunter, what cancels out on this first fraction now that I put sine and cosine above it?
Sin X.
Remember, good. Remember, guys, you can only cancel something out if it's on the bottom. Y'all okay with that? Whatever's left over, Ashland, you got to times them. So look, guys, I'm going to have to times cosine and secant. But secant actually changes to 1 over cosine. Does that make sense? Because you got to change everything into sines and cosines. So that cosine cancels that cosine. I just bring down 1 for that first fraction. Do I need to say that again? I had to say it again this morning in the first block. Let's do it again. All right. These two mark out. That's easy. You got to times whatever's left. So I got to times cosine x and secant x. I got to times them. But the only way I can times them is if I change secant into 1 over cosine. Because that's what it is on my sheet. Now when I mark those out, I just bring down a 1 for all that. That first fraction is just going to become 1. All right, second fraction now. Can I cancel anything? Yeah, I can cancel that cosine with that one. How come I can't cancel these two signs? One's got to be on the bottom, one's got to be on the top. They're both on the top. Okay. So just like over here, whatever's left, we had to times it. Whatever's left, you got to times it. That's sine squared. All right, now it gets easy from here. Change the top. Hunter, 1 minus sine squared, what's it change into?
Cosine squared.
So I got cosine squared on top. The bottom is still sine and cosine. All right, Laney, we're going to have to cancel something on the top and something on the bottom. What can I cancel? You see anything that matches up?
The cosine.
And remember, guys, cosine squared, y'all don't have to write this, but it just means you got 2 cosines up there is what it means. So I can cross 1 out on the top and 1 out on the bottom. I'm left with just cosine over sine. Can I change that into one word? Cotangent. All right, you guys are doing real well. Let's get these 4 down on the bottom and we'll take a bathroom break. See how long my video is. If it's 20 minutes, I need to stop it.